Hello everyone, I'm Leah Dixon from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. I am popping on for take 2 of my monthly online workshop, and so basically the way this works is I pop on, I'm gonna show you guys some tips and tricks and stuff and make a few cards. I do have a door prize entry form in the description of this video, and so you can enter there for a chance to win the cards that I'm actually making today. And it looks like Facebook might actually be working properly this time. I can see my screen and I can see a comment section. Awesome. So if you're here and watching live, please comment, say hi, ask me questions. And if you're watching in a replay, just do a hashtag replay and again, ask away. I'll be going back through the comments and answering questions and responding to people as you guys make comments. And yeah, that's about it. I also have a a fun little special going on this month, and so for any order over $100, I'll actually mail out a package of wonderful snowflakes to you. They're just these gorgeous iridescent snowflakes, and really, really beautiful. So that's with any order over $100, and you can use the host code here on the screen. And yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to switch my screen over to my desktop and let's get started creating. And hopefully today this video is a little bit smoother for you. The first time I went on, it just kept saying live is starting, and apparently it was filming, but yeah, on my end it wasn't showing anything. All right, so what we're going to create with today is the stamp set Count on Me. It's just a super cute, great friendship kind of stamp set. I don't know about you guys, but right now I have a lot of friends who are going through some really hard times. Here in British Columbia, we've had some awful flooding and problems continue, and more rains are coming. And you know, a card is just one little thing that, you know, we can do to kind of at least let them know we're there for them. And yeah, so I thought this was the perfect stamp set. And then I've paired it up with my favorite designer series paper. This is the Playful Patterns Host DSP. And so you can only get this one by hosting a party or making a purchase of over $200. Or if you make a purchase of $100 with me today, you'll get your free wonderful snowflakes, but you'll also get the card bits needed to make today's cards. And so you'll get a little bit, you'll get a 6x6 piece of this designer series paper in that card pack. So here we go. We're going to get started. So first thing we need to do is we need just our designer series paper and a paper trimmer. And the reason we need a paper trimmer is because we are actually going to make 4 cards out of this single piece of paper. Sorry, I just put my paper trimmer down upside down. So first thing I'm going to do is check to make sure that I actually have a 6x6 piece, because it actually doesn't look 6x6 to me, and I may not have, I was probably cutting it up for other things, and so it may not actually be 6x6. There we go, it is 6x6 now. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to cut, and with this paper, direction does matter. I want to cut a 2-inch strip of designer series paper here. So your first cut is 2 inches in whatever direction. This is going to go vertical like this on your card. So I wanted my stripes to be horizontal, so I cut it that way. And then I'm going to trim it down to 5.5, because that is how tall a standard card base is. Now these 2 pieces that we've cut, we're going to set to the side and keep them because we're using them both on a card. Then we're going to take our remaining piece here and we're going to turn it sideways and cut at the 3-inch mark. And then one of those pieces, we're going to pull it in. Now this is a 4x3 piece. We're now going to cut it again so that those stripes are going horizontally. We're going to cut it at 3, 2, 1 so that we end up with 4 1-inch by 3-inch pieces. There we go. And so that's our next cut, and I will lay this all out so that you can see exactly where all of these pieces cut from. once we get them all finished being cut. Okay, so now we have this other 4x3 piece left over, and this one we're going to trim up. We're actually going to cut it down to 3 inches. Again, with those stripes going horizontally. So now we have a 3x3 square, and I'm actually going to cut it at 1.5, and then turn those pieces and cut them each at 1.5. So we're going to end up with 4 little squares. That's my scoring tool. Okay. So now that our paper is all cut up, I'm going to bring the pieces back into the screen so you can see exactly how that cut out. Like that. And these pieces here. Oops, that way, and that one. So this is how our paper got cut up into all of the bits that we're going to need today to create 4 cards. So this is a single sheet of 6x6. You can do this with literally any patterned paper that you have. You just want to make sure that, you know, the 2 sides of your paper kind of go together. So this one is black and white dots on the other side, so it goes together beautifully. So with that done, and we've got all of these pieces cut up, we can start creating our cards. So I'm going to move this off to the side so I have some space here to create, and let's get going. So our first card today is using a Bermuda Bay base. So I chose a Bermuda Bay base just because it goes nicely with one of the stripes in our card here. And then to go on top of it, I have a 4x5.25 piece of basic white cardstock that we're just going to use because then we can do some stamping on here, and it's not going to go through, and because I'm going to be coloring it with blends that tend to bleed, and so then the inside of our card will still be nice and clean. All right, so I'm going to grab these 4 squares that we cut out, and this is going to be the beginning of our card. I'm actually going to start by flipping one over, and I'm going to use some liquid glue to glue this down quite close to the top and on a diagonal. So it's creating that diamond shape instead of a square shape. So there we go. So I start with my first diamond. Now this one I'm going to put the glue on the black side so that it's my rainbow that's showing. And I'm going to glue that down just like that. And then my next one, I'm going to do the glue on the rainbow side and glue it down so the black and white side is showing. Put that right in there. And then our last one, I'm not going to glue the whole thing. I'm also going to decide which way I want it. There we go, I want the pink going in. So I'm not going to glue the whole thing. I'm only going to glue about half of it because the other half is going to be off of our card front. And so it doesn't need any adhesive on it. And so I'm going to pop that one in. There we go. So there are our 4 pieces put onto our card base. And then I'm going to flip this over so I can just see the back. And I'm going to use a pair of snips and just trim that. Now that little piece that I trimmed, I am going to keep it, and I'm actually going to glue it down right now so that I don't lose it, onto another piece of basic white cardstock. Okay. So I'm not sure if anybody's on with me. If you are on and watching and want to say hi so I know you're there, that would be awesome. Facebook is being really, really strange today and not cooperating with me. So if you are there and leaving comments, I'm sorry that I can't see them, and I will go back through and look at them and respond and stuff later. Because, yeah, Facebook seems to let me see comments on the replay, no problem. All right, so this one, and I do like the liquid glue because you can kind of move it around. So I was able to get that right in the bottom corner. So just a little something, a little dash of color on the inside of this card. Now this piece I'm going to glue directly into my card now. We are using literally every scrap from this 6x6 piece of paper today to create these 4 cards. Nothing will go to waste. There we go. So our inside is there, and it's got that cute colorful corner. I don't know why, just a little something on the inside. We can always stamp a sentiment in here later as well, but a little something on the inside always makes me smile. All right, now we need to finish the front of our card. So I'm going to move these snips off to the side, and we're going to grab our stamps. So for this card, we are going to use Through Thick and Thin, Count Me In, and our cutest little penguin. And I am going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat because I want to have something a little softer than my hard table here to stamp on. This is foam, but it's very firm, but it allows me just to make a really nice impression when I'm stamping, so I don't have any missed spots or weird bumps from my surface underneath. All right, so I'm going to start with my little penguin, and I'm going to stamp him up quite high into that space that we've got beside our diamonds. And then below him, I'm going to stamp in this Through Thick and Thin, Count Me In. For both of these, I am using Memento black ink. It's a nice one to use when you're going to be using Stampin' Blends because it doesn't, the ink doesn't lift and run. All right, so that is all stamped. Now we're going to grab our blends, and the first blend I'm grabbing is actually my light Pool Party. I go through a lot of Pool Party blends because when you're stamping on a white paper and have just these kind of little guys, like he's supposed to be floating in the air, right? Or maybe not. Maybe I should have put some ground under him and he's just standing with a balloon. But for some reason, I feel like that balloon is just going to lift him right off the ground. So I'm going to color around him with my light Pool Party, and it just creates that distinction between your background and your character. This is a great thing to do when you are stamping like snowmen and stuff, because then there is some distinction between the white on white. All right, now my next color is light basic black, and I do recommend the light one, not the dark one, because the dark one is like night. It is so jet black, whereas this light black is black, but light enough that it allows the Memento ink lines to still show through. And we're going to be very careful. So I'm using the paintbrush tip. There is a finer tip on this guy, and I could be using that end because these spaces are super duper fine. But I'm just going to go really light and slow and do it this way. All right, so there we go. So we've got our little black penguin, but he's not like overwhelmingly, shockingly black. And then I'm going to use some light pumpkin pie because we've got pumpkin pie in our designer series paper, just to color in his beak and his feet. And for this one, I am using that finer tip. All right, our last bit of coloring is our balloon. Now, I was going to ask you guys what color to do this balloon, but I don't think comments are coming through, so that's not going to work. So what I've done is I've kind of looked at the colors here in our designer series paper, and we do have like some nice pinks and blues and some greens going on, but I know that I'm going to be adding some flourishes to this, so I'm actually going to go with a color that's not in our DSP. It's called Fresh Freesia, and so we've got our light and our dark. All of our blends come in combos with one light, one dark. And so I'm going to grab my dark Fresh Freesia and just do the side of my balloon, and then I'm going to grab my light Fresh Freesia and continue coloring my balloon. And so it just creates the slightest shading to that balloon and just gives it a little bit of a feel of being more 3D. So that's our fresh Freesia balloon on there. And now I'm going to bring in our embellishments. Actually, you know what? I should embellish this after I attach this to our card front. That will be much easier. So I'm going to take this piece and glue it right onto our card front. And then I can add the embellishments at the end. There we go. Such a strange feeling stamping alone and talking to myself. Hope you guys are having a great day and that you're all somewhere safe and dry and you've not been too affected by the flooding that's happening. There we go. So that's glued on. And now I'm actually going to flip over and use the very fine point end of my liquid glue. I don't use this end very often, but today I'm going to. And I'm just going to put a tiny dot right where all of those meet together. And I've got these loose flower flourishes. They're like these hard plastic flowers. And so I'm just going to grab one and pop it right there in the center. You could also use a mini glue dot to apply this larger one, but the reason I use the liquid glue is because I need it anyways to apply. I'm going to put 2 more on my card. I think I'm going to put 2 more, maybe 1, 2, 1, 2, about like that. I'm going to put 1 here and 1 here on my card. And I'm going to use the tiniest little guys, and a mini glue dot will not fit behind this guy very well. So liquid glue it is. And the liquid glue, although it does take a little while to dry, so we're going to have to be careful with this card for right now. When it does dry, it's got a very, very strong hold. All right, so that is our finished card. So that's our first card with our cute little penguin and those gorgeous flower flourishes. So I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to keep it flat for now so that that liquid glue will have some time to dry. All right, so now we have a whole bunch of pieces left to use up and create with. So our next card, let's see, what do I have here? I've got my white bases. So our next card just needs 2 pieces of cardstock, a basic thick white cardstock, cut at 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4 to create our card base, and then our card front here, which is a 4 by 5 1/4 piece that we're going to pop on with dimensionals once we've decorated it. So on to decorating. I'm going to take these 2 pieces that were kind of like the strays. These were just kind of the leftover bits. We cut this little guy off when we trimmed down our large 2-inch piece. So this guy is 2 inches by 1/2 inch. And I'm going to use my tailored tag punch to do my favorite thing, which is to flag the ends. So I put in my designer series paper so I can just see the end of it, center it, and clip, and voila, I've got a little flagged end. And I'm going to do the same thing to this piece. There we go. And so I've got a flagged end. So now that I've created my 2 little banners here, I am actually going to glue them right down onto my card front here, just like that, just kind of overlapping each other and right up along the edge. So before I do that though, I've just placed them where I want them. I'm going to do my stamping first, just in case I mess it up. Then I can always go back in and fix things. So I've got my little fox here, and I'm going to stamp him. Oops, see, and this is why we didn't glue them. So now I can flip that over. Oh, I'm going to reposition those where I think I want them. Hopefully I'll do this correctly this time and I won't have to redo anything. Actually, I think I want those just a tiny bit lower. There we go. So I'm going to stamp my little fox. There we go, got the full image that time. And then I am going to stamp the words, "No matter what, I'm here for you." And again, I'm doing this in Memento Black. There we go. So we've got our little fox stamped and our sentiment stamped on this paper. And now I can glue those banners down. So I'm going to use my liquid glue again because that is my favorite glue to use. Here we go. And pop this on just underneath them. And then our little black one. So this is where having a designer series paper where the two sides coordinate really comes in handy, because we can mix and match the two sides onto one card, just like we did on our last card. So there we go. It's a 2 for 1. All right. So with this done, I'm going to color in our little fox, and I'm going to use Calypso Coral Blends for this guy. And I'm going to come in here just with my dark Calypso Coral and do just kind of spots where I really feel like we need some definition happening. And I'm going to do his ears. Once that's done, I am going to grab my light Calypso Coral with my big paintbrush end, and I'm going to come in and blend all of that together. Now notice I am not coloring in his face or the tip of his tail. We're going to leave those white. There we go. And just blend all of that. All right, so we've got our cute little fox colored in. He is so sweet. And I am going to add just a little bit of color into his ears. I'm just going to get my light Flirty Flamingo and color in his ears. There we go, just like that. And then, just to give him a bit of distinction, because again we have that white on white happening, I'm going to take my light Pool Party and just quickly go around him entirely. Okay, and it just helps him pop out. It's so light that it's not like a big intrusion on the page where the blue and the white meet, but it's just enough that it lets him pop out off of the card. So there we go, that's all done. And now we're going to add, now we're going to pop this up and put it on our card front before we add our embellishments. It's always easier. Oh, comments are finally coming through. Excellent. The pens are actually alcohol-based inks. Yeah. So they do bleed through, which is why I like to do this on a separate sheet instead of directly on my card front. Yeah, so they're alcohol-based markers, kind of like a Copics marker. Yeah, but it's nice. They come in all of the Stampin' Up colors that coordinate with all of our cardstocks, and then you get the light and the dark together in the combo pack. There we go. And so with that attached to our card front using dimensionals, now I'm going to come in and add in some rhinestones. My pack is getting pretty low. Yikes. All right, so I'm just going to kind of scatter these on, and I'm going to actually scatter them on in like a diagonal pattern down. Oops, that one didn't stay on my card. Okay, that might be the one I would use before I pulled it off of another card. Actually, I don't want that up that high. I'll bring that down there and down there. And so I've just kind of created this diagonal, and I've left kind of like this big contrast, so like lots of weight down here on our card and then nice big empty space up there, just to kind of create an interesting flow across our card. All right, this one actually could come down a bit and create even more of like a diagonal line down. So there we go. That is our second card finished. So same designer series paper, same stamp set, and 2 really cute cards so far. All right, put those to the side for now, and we'll move on to our third card, which is, we're going to do this one here with the 4 1-inch by 3-inch pieces that we cut out. And so what I have got for this card is a Pool Party base. It has been cut at 11 by 4 1/4 and then scored at 5 1/2. So this is kind of like the hamburger card. It's going to open sideways. And then I have a piece of basic white cardstock cut at 4 by 5 1/4 again. So that's kind of our standard layer onto the card piece. And then I have a scrap of black, cut it, I think it was a scrap, I think it's 3/4 by 4. It's longer than we need. So first thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to move all of this out of the way, and we're going to die cut this white piece. Although it's the most interesting die we have, it doesn't really die cut. It almost more cut embosses. So I'm just going to bring in, unfortunately I have to bring in my big guy, and we're going to use, it's called the Stitched Greenery Die. Let's turn this the right way so I will be able to actually turn this. So I've got my plates here, I've got my cardstock, and I'm going to put it on just the slightest angle because our die that we're using is a giant rectangle. And I don't want it to like speed bump when it hits the top, so I want to be able to place it on an angle so that we've got a corner to lead. And then we're going to roll this through. There we go. So this giant die that we have just cut all of this beautiful greenery stitching into my cardstock. So I have a gorgeous pattern, no ink needed, nothing. Let's just see if I can get the focus going here, because I don't know if you guys can see that well. There we go. So that's all stitching, and so there definitely is a right and a wrong side. This side has like all the bumpiness to it, and it's all pushed up, and then this side is all beautiful and smooth and looking lovely. All right, so with that done, we'll bring all of our pieces back and we'll start putting our card together. So this piece we're going to glue directly to our card front. Oh, my screen just froze. Hopefully it didn't for you guys. All right, so put a bunch of glue on the back of that, and we're going to glue that down right to our card front. There we go. Now we're going to grab our rainbow pieces here that we have, and these are also going to get glued to our card front. So I'm just going to have to hold down those corners a little bit more. So you don't want to use too much glue on this one. I can see some actually came through because it's got the stitching. The glue can come through. So grab a white eraser, or if you're old timer like me, I've been around in the Stampin' Up world since they had this lovely glue eraser. You can get your glue eraser and clean that up if you have a little bit of extra glue that comes through. Otherwise, a white eraser works as well. Okay, there we go. All right, so with that glued down, our internet has been so bad lately, Dory, and even worse since the flooding happened. The schools lost all like telephone and internet the day of the actual flooding, and we didn't even have like bad flooding here. It's just been horrible. All right, so I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to glue my piece on the other side as well. Now, I'm not being too concerned about getting these even because I'm actually going to like up, down. So that one's kind of down, I'll do one up, I'll do one down, I'll do one kind of more up. What I am more concerned about is the spacing on the outside edges being equal. And then when I put these ones in, the spacing inside being equal. That's kind of the most important part, because I'm not even going to try to line these up straight. I'm going to purposefully stagger them. I'm not great at lining things up, so I'll play to my strengths of making it not even. There we go. And one more. Yeah, hopefully on the replay, if you're watching this on the replay, hopefully it will be a lot smoother. I find that the replay is able to buffer and take out a lot of the inconsistencies in the streaming. Okay, so we've got those rainbow pieces glued on, and now we're going to get our piece of black cardstock here, and we're going to emboss it in white. So first thing I'm going to do is grab my Stampin' Emboss Buddy and just run that over there to take any oils off. I believe you can use dryer sheets as well to do that. You just want something that's going to remove any oils from your fingers that may have gotten onto your cardstock. Then I've got my Versamark ink, and the sentence, "We can make it through anything if we do it together." So sweet. And so stamp that in my Versamark. And I'm kind of trying to center it on here. Doesn't really matter because we're going to trim up both ends, but I want to make sure I have enough room to trim on this. All right. Then you're going to grab your white embossing powder. For me, I just keep mine in this tray so that I can just come in, scoop it up, tap it off. Anything that's not coming off, you can use your fingers or a fine paintbrush to remove any excess pieces. And actually, I see there's one little piece there right in the middle of the words that I'm going to come in and take out. There we go. And one more piece. There we go. All right, so once you have this as a nice clean image with the embossing powder just where you want it, then we're going to grab our heat tool and heat this up until it goes from looking powdery to looking shiny. There you have it. So with this piece all done up like that, I'm going to grab my tailored tag punch again, slide this in until I can see that "we" and then roll back and trim that end. So I've got a nice flagged end on my piece. And then this is going to go onto our card front and quite over to the left. In fact, I'm not even going to glue that just yet. I'm going to do a little bit of stamping, and I'm actually just going to use a scrap paper. So let's see what I've got on my desk here. So yeah, I've just got this little scrap, and I'm going to pull in the koala bears. They are so cute. So we can make it through anything if we do it together. So these two little guys all cuddled up together, and just stamp them there on my scrap. And I'm going to bring in again that pool party and go all the way around them. So it's always that light pool party that I'm using to do this piece. And the first time you do it, you're kind of nervous and, oh, you know, trying to make sure it's all straight and even, but you'll actually realize that quick, fast doesn't have to be perfect, because the tip of that brush really is going to just help it along anyways. And then I'm bringing in my light flirty flamingo again to do their ears. And then I'm going to use my smoky slate combo. So I'm going to start with my dark and just come in and highlight some of those spots. They're in their bellies, kneecap, and maybe a little bit up around the ears. Okay, and a little bit over here. Okay, and then I'm going to take the wide tip of my light smoky slate and just color in everything except for those noses. And I'll leave the noses alone. There we go. All right, so blending this along. And these cute little koalas, oh my goodness, they're so sweet. All right, just a little bit more blending in there, a little bit more along there. Okay, those guys are adorable. I love them. All right, so koalas are colored. We'll put away our pens, and now the next thing we need to do is to actually fussy cut these guys. So I'm going to grab my snips again, and what I like about doing this blue border as well is now I can fussy cut them. I don't need to get super close to the image, and I've got that nice blue border to kind of guide me in terms of where I'm cutting. And voila. All right, so we've got our cute little koalas all cut out and ready to go onto our card front. So you can use a little dash of glue behind these guys, or I'm going to use just a little bit of seal. So it's just a tape runner, and just right where they're going to kind of cover up our sentiment here. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to flip the whole thing over and put dimensionals right across the back. So one kind of on the koala's end, the sentiment, one in the center, and one at the tip. And here we go. Pull that off. Pop that down. And you can use the lines of the rainbow to help you get that straight on your card. And then the last thing we have to do is add a little bit of bling. So I'm going to start over there, do a little one up there a bit, and then throw one down here. And so just kind of finish off our card like that. So that's our third card today using our pieces. So we now have just one piece left from that 6x6 sheet of cardstock that we started with. And we are going to grab just a basic white card base, standard base, 5.5 by 8.5, so half a sheet of paper, scored at 4 1/4. And so that folds up to make a nice little card base. And the first thing we're going to do is glue that last piece of designer series paper onto our card base. All right. Oh, this last piece would make a very cute bookmark. You're right. I'm going to make a card with it, but it would make a very cute bookmark. So this one we're going to glue down. And so some liquid glue here. I just do a tiny dot on the flat end of my liquid glue and then drag it along my cardstock or along my designer series paper. So I really use like virtually no glue as I do this. And so right up against the edge. There we go. Okay, so that's done. We are now going to do a fun little thing. Instead of tracing our little guy, now we could keep this super simple, stamp our little character on here and go around him with the pool party like I've been doing, but there's another fun way to get a nice little softer border even going on. And that's, I've got some balmy blue and a blending brush. And I'm going to come in here, and my character that I'm using is going to be the bear from this stamp set, so he's pretty tall. So I'm going to blend quite high and low on this and create a nice blue background. So the more you apply, the darker it's going to get, but it's going to remain quite soft. That's what I love about these blending brushes, is it creates just really a very soft look to it. So you can see there we've got that blue, but it's really not, oh, the piece with the koalas. Oh yeah, that would make a cute bookmark. That's so sweet. So here we've got just a really nice light blue background happening. Very soft edges on it. And that was just with our blending brush. Now I'm going to actually bring in that scrap of paper that I had before, and I'm going to stamp my bear in black. So he is such a sweetheart. And there we go. And we're going to color him in with blends again, and trying to stick with similar colors. So our heart, we're going to start with the Flirty Flamingo that we've been using for all the other critters' ears. For this one, we're just going to come in with some dark on the tip of that heart, and then the light to finish it off. There we go. So he's holding that little heart in his hands. So cute. And then we have been using some crumb cake. Oh, actually, maybe we didn't. No, I ended up going gray with the koalas. Oh, interesting. All right, well, for our bear, we're going to use some crumb cake. So I'm going to start again with my dark. And all the places where they've already put like the little black lines to highlight things, that's where I'm going to do my dark. And kind of add that in there. And along there, accenting right near his face and up in his little ears. I'm going to do that down on his feet. And once we've added in all the dark that we want, we're going to come in with the light crumb cake and color his whole body. Now, the first go round, I'm not spending too much time working on the blending. I'm more just trying to get his body filled in. And then I'll come back to the spots where I want to blend, and we'll let that start to happen. You don't want to apply too much blender pen near the edges because it will start to bleed and go out of your lines. There we go. All right, so our little guy's done, and then I'll come in really light on his nose. There we go. What a sweetheart. Love him. All right, now I am going to still go around him with the pool party, even though most of it's going to get trimmed off, just because it will help mix in with the background that we have. Okay. And so it doesn't have to be super perfect because we are going to be trimming the ends. There. All right. So now I'm going to grab my snips and go all the way around this guy. And so again, because we've done that border, we don't have to be super careful about our cutting. We can really just kind of do a quick cut around him. And almost done. There we go. All right, put that spot to the side for another card. And now we're going to attach him with some dimensionals to our card front. So just one at the bottom, one at the top. There we go. Pop him on there. And then, I love it, the sentiment that goes with him is, I've got your back. So we're going to get some black Memento ink and just stamp that right down at the bottom. Oh, a little bit crooked. Oh well. You guys can make sure you're a little bit of a straighter stamper than I am. And now we have some embellishments to add to this. I'm actually going to tie a piece of crinkled white seam binding around this. So I'm just going to leave enough to tie a bow, wrap that around, and snip. So that's our crinkled seam binding. This stuff's great because you can also color it with your blends, and then just set it to dry for a few minutes, and you've got literally any color ribbon you want. So when I tie this, it ties a really nice tight knot. So I always do a knot first, and I use my pinky finger to hold that down while I'm trying to get in there to make the knot. Once I've got my knot, I'm going to straighten this around, put the bow where I want it up at the top, and then I will create my bow. So I do 2 bunny ears, wrap one around the other, through the hole, and pull. Oh, come on. It's not cooperating today. There we go. Okay, and then I just kind of fiddle with it until I get it laying the way I would like it to. Okay, keep fiddling. And so bows can be a little bit tricky. I was teaching a class last night, and we're all struggling with the bows, and it's really just a matter of continuing to fiddle with it until it looks the way you want it to, twisting it and pulling it in the direction you want it to. So sometimes it's fast and it just works out so beautifully, and sometimes you really got to work it. All right, I'm happy with that, so I'm going to trim up the ends. There. And of course, just like with all of our other cards, I am going to add some bling. For this little guy, I think I'm just going to do 3 little rhinestones right up here at the top. And voila, we are finished our 4th card. So that is how you can basically take a single sheet of 6x6 designer series paper, some minimal cardstock, like you could have gotten away with actually using Pool Party on this card as well, so then it would have been just Pool Party and basic white with some black ink and whatever coloring tools you want to create 4 awesome cards with a single sheet of 6x6 designer series paper. So that is this month's workshop, and I'm just going to switch my view over. So if you loved that, you can place an order with me, and anybody who places a minimum of $60 order will actually get the cardstock and the single 6x6 sheet of designer series paper needed to create these cards. So you could use a stamp set that you have at home, or put that Count on Me stamp set in as part of your $60 order to get these pieces. And then anybody who places a $100 order will get these pieces, as well as a package of wonderful snowflakes from me. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to keep this open a little bit longer than my usual workshops. I'm going to keep it open till the 25th because I'm also part of an online holiday fair right now that runs all the way till the 25th, which is this Wednesday, I believe. Oh, maybe it's later than that. And so, yeah, I'll keep this open till the 25th when that closes. And I think that's about it. I hope you guys have a fabulous day, and do message me with any questions you have about anything that you saw today or any of the tools. And also know that we have a starter kit deal. So as tempting as it is for a $100 order to get these card bits and the wonderful snowflakes, we actually have a $100 starter kit deal on right now. And that's $100, and you only pay GST on that, no PST, no shipping. So it's $107, and you'd actually be able to order $165 worth of product. Join my team where we do monthly card classes as well, with cards very similar to these ones. And just have a great time. We have an online Facebook group, a private group, where we share inspiration and tips and tricks and everything. And yeah, it's a great time. And then you also get a 20% discount as long as you remain an active demonstrator. There's actually no requirement to sell or anything. The only way to remain an active demonstrator is by placing a minimum order every quarter so that you remain active. So if you want to know more about that, contact me. I'm happy to share. And that $100 starter kit deal is on until the end of the month. So thanks, everybody. See you later.